You've probably asked this before, even if you never said it out loud. Why him and not me? Why did her prayer get answered and mine didn't? We like to believe God blesses the people who deserve it, the ones with clean records, strong faith, the right amount of good behavior stacked up like points on a scoreboard. But when you actually go back and look at who Jesus healed, not who should have qualified, but who actually got picked, the pattern that shows up will wreck that whole scoreboard idea. None of them earned it. Not one. Some of them weren't even looking for him. Some had reputations that should have disqualified them by every religious rule of their day, and that's exactly the point. Today, we're walking through 7 people Jesus healed. And by the end, you're going to see something about how blessing actually works that most of us were never taught in church. Stick with me to the end, because number 6 will change how you pray. Here's the thing, nobody tells you about the Gospels. Jesus never ran a background check. He didn't ask the bleeding woman for her attendance record. He didn't ask the blind beggar what he'd done with his life. He didn't wait for the leper to clean himself up first. Every single healing in the Gospels breaks the rule we secretly believe, that blessing is a reward. So let's go one by one. 7 people, 7 completely different situations. And by the time we get through all of them, you'll see the actual pattern God was running the whole time. She'd been bleeding for 12 years. In her culture, that wasn't just a medical problem. It made her ritually unclean. She couldn't touch people, couldn't go to temple. 12 years of being on the outside of everything, including her own family, because of a body that wouldn't cooperate. She'd spent everything she had on doctors. Mark's gospel doesn't soften this. It says she'd suffered under many physicians and gotten worse, not better. So by the time she finds Jesus in that crowd, she's not just sick. She's broke, exhausted, and running out of hope. She doesn't even ask him for anything. She doesn't get a private audience. She just reaches through a crowd and touches the edge of his robe. And that's it. That's the whole qualification. Not a request, not a resume, a reach. Jesus stops the entire crowd to find her. Not to expose her, but to tell her something she probably hadn't heard in 12 years. Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace. She didn't get healed because she waited long enough or suffered enough to deserve it. She got healed because she reached. This one should not have happened. Not by the religious math of the day. A Roman centurion, an outsider, part of the occupying army, not even Jewish, comes to Jesus asking him to heal his servant. By every social and religious boundary of that culture, this man was on the wrong side of the line. But listen to what he says. Lord, I'm not worthy to have you come under my roof. Just say the word, and my servant will be healed. He understood something most religious insiders in that story didn't. That Jesus didn't need proximity or credentials. He just needed to be trusted. And Jesus says something remarkable. I have not found such great faith, not even in Israel. The people who assumed they had the inside track on blessing, the ones who'd grown up with the promises, the temple, the whole religious system, got passed over for an outsider who simply believed. Position didn't get this man healed. Trust did. This one matters because of the question that gets asked before the healing. The disciples look at this man and ask Jesus, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? That's the scoreboard theology right there. Something bad happened to him, so someone must have done something wrong. Jesus shuts that down completely. He says neither this man nor his parents sinned, but this happened so the works of God could be displayed in him. Read that again. His suffering wasn't a punishment waiting to be explained. It was a setup for something God was going to do that had nothing to do with blame. Jesus doesn't even wait for the man to ask. He initiates the healing himself, unprompted, because he wants to make a point that outlasts the miracle. Blessing isn't God settling a score. Sometimes it's God rewriting one. 10 men, all with leprosy, all cut off from their communities, all cry out to Jesus at the same time, from the same distance with the same request. And he heals all 10, every single one. No filtering, no ranking, no, you first because you asked nicer. But here's where the story gets uncomfortable. Only one comes back to say, thank you. And Luke makes a point of telling us he was a Samaritan, a group Jewish people of that era looked down on. Jesus asks, almost out loud to no one, were not 10 cleansed? Where are the other 9? The blessing wasn't rationed based on who was most likely to be grateful. All 10 got healed regardless of what they'd do next, but only one of them let that healing turn into an actual relationship with the one who gave it. That's the split we still live in today. God's blessing isn't the rare part. Our response to it is. Jairus was a synagogue leader, a man with status, a title, a public reputation to protect. And he falls at Jesus' feet in front of everyone, begging for his dying daughter. While he's still talking, someone arrives and says the girl has already died. Don't bother the teacher anymore. That's the moment most of us quit praying. The report came back and it was final. But Jesus looks at Jairus and says, do not be afraid, only believe. He goes to the house, takes her by the hand, and she gets up. This healing didn't hinge on Jairus' title or his community standing. It hinged on whether he'd keep believing after the worst news arrived. Status didn't buy this miracle. Persistence past the bad report did. This is the one I told you to wait for. Bartimaeus is sitting on the roadside begging when he hears Jesus is passing by. He starts shouting, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. The crowd tells him to be quiet, not gently. Mark says they rebuked him, told him to shut up. He shouts louder, here's what gets me about this one. Bartimaeus had every social signal telling him he wasn't the priority. He was blind, poor, sitting on the ground while a famous rabbi walked past with a crowd of more important people around him. The crowd itself tried to filter him out of the blessing. And Jesus stops, not just heals him from a distance, stops and says, call him. Then Jesus asks him something you'd think was obvious. What do you want me to do for you? Bartimaeus doesn't ask for money, even though he's a beggar. He asks to see. This is the part that changes how you pray. The crowd around you, including the noise of your own doubts telling you to sit down and stay quiet, is never the final word on whether you get heard. Bartimaeus wasn't healed because the crowd made room for him. He was healed because he refused to let their rebuke be the last sound he made. If God is calling you towards something right now and the loudest voices around you, even the ones inside your own head, are telling you to quiet down and know your place, that's not disqualification. That's exactly the moment to shout louder. Save the best for last. This man doesn't even walk into the story on his own. He's carried by 4 friends who can't get through the crowded doorway, so they climb onto the roof, tear a hole in it, and lower him down on his mat, right in front of Jesus. Before Jesus even addresses the paralysis, he says something that stops the whole room. Son, your sins are forgiven. Then, because some religious leaders in the room are offended by that claim, he heals the man's legs too, as proof that the deeper forgiveness was real. Here's what stands out. This man didn't even initiate his own healing. It was his friends' desperation and creativity that got him in front of Jesus in the first place. Sometimes the door to your breakthrough isn't opened by your own faith. It's opened by people who refuse to let you stay stuck, even if it means tearing a hole in the roof to get you there. If you've been waiting to feel qualified before you bring your situation to God, stop waiting. None of these 7 were qualified either. That was never the requirement. If something in this list landed on you, If you saw yourself in the one shouting when everyone told him to be quiet, or the one still believing after the report came back bad, I want you to sit with that for a second before you scroll away. Which one of these 7 felt the most like where you are right now? Tell me in the comments. If this gave you something to hold on to today, subscribe. Not for me, but so the next one finds you when you need it. I'll see you in the next one.